this Canelo versus Crawford fight. See a lot of people now kind of switching their pick over to Crawford based on how Canelo looked against William Skull. It seems it's 50-50 as opposed to maybe a year ago when talk began of this fight. Overwhelmingly amount of people were like, Canelo's just way too big for Crawford. Like, this is not going to be a competitive fight. Now that both fighters have had a fight to kind of see where they're at, how are you seeing it? Has your opinion changed at all?
Not a whole lot. It hasn't changed all that much. Listen, the Skull fight, could Canelo have done more? Absolutely. But is that going to be the same version of guy that's going to show up in September? No. I mean, Canelo, he didn't look as fit as he did his last fight. He looked listless. He looked like he didn't care. He didn't have the crowd behind him. And Marcus, you've been to a ton of Canelo fights. You know how that arena is. It is insane. Insane. In Vegas, I mean, it's deafening the entire fight. I remember when he fought BJ Saunders in
oh my
Texas.
God.
And he's
that
waving
Saunders
on
one?
80,000 fans.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he is a gladiator. You know, I called Tim a warrior. Canelo's a gladiator. He is there for the adoration of the fans. I just think that he was a little too clinical in there that night. You know, he didn't have that same drive. He had a guy who just was not willing to engage. That's not going to be Crawford, and that's not going to be Canelo. They're going to be their peak of what they are at this point. Because again, Crawford is 38 years old. Canelo will be 35 by then. So I think they're going to be the peak for what they are at their ages. But it's easy to go, wow, what have you done for me lately? That's usually how everyone kind of sees everything. So, but I think it's good. I think it makes the fight more enticing if a lot of people are thinking that Crawford can win. And don't get me wrong, Crawford can absolutely win the fight. I'm not saying he can't win the fight. But in terms of, you know, how I see it, it hasn't really changed my thoughts because I know better than to just trust that last thing I saw because there's a lot of confounding factors.
So, okay, so you feel Canelo is going to win the fight?
I leaned Canelo, yeah.
Yeah.
I always have. I've always leaned Canelo. Just it's the good big man versus the good small man.
Recently, though, we've seen the good small man beat the good big man because of the speed.
Yes, yeah, but Canelo's not slow. You know, it's not like Canelo is actually a smaller man who's come up to fight a lot of bigger men. You know, because his hand speed, the guys can't deal with him. So his ability to cut off the ring, the fact that he imposes his will, he puts a lot of mental pressure on his opponents without even doing a whole lot. He doesn't throw a ton of punches. He throws less now than ever, but he's there. He's got this frame and his physique. And I've sparred Canelo. The guy's a tank. Like he's very physical in the ring without doing a whole lot, just because of his presence. So I'm curious to see how Terrence, how Bud can deal with that. But dude, kind of like I said about Manny, if anybody can do it, man, it's Bud. He's so smart. The guy's like an alien in there. The way he sees things, the way he pulls the trigger, the game. He's also a game plan guy. They make game plans. They don't just show up and fight. They know what they're doing, how they're doing it, or what round they're doing it in. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting, intriguing fight. It's just really hard for me to forget the Madrimov fight at 54, which was 2 weight classes ago. And I think Madrimov is phenomenal, by the way. I think he's a really, really good fighter. And I think that people underestimated how good Madrimov really was, and he was mashing wits with Crawford all night long. But the size, the strength, the physicality, that was all an issue for Crawford that night. Jump up 2 more weight classes, you know, it's just, again, it's a lot of factors to think about. But it's 2 great fighters fighting. They're just a couple weight classes apart.
Yeah, like that Madrimov fight is I don't know, it's a weird one in a way because you look at it and you think, yo, Madrimov landed these punches. What's going to happen if Canelo lands these punches? Because he will land some of those type of punches. And like, look how close of a fight those two had. Now you had a guy who's 2 weight classes more who knocks out guys that are like 190, 200 in his fights. Like, it's like, you know, look, like what's going to happen. But I don't know. Like I said, I think a lot of people are underestimating how good Madrimov is. And also that Madrimov helped Bivol prepare for Canelo. He just is, he's a lot faster than Canelo too. With his, if you've seen his footwork drills are freaking crazy. The
better conditioning too. Better conditioning than Canelo.
Uzbek football drills are crazy. You know, just my thing with this is I feel I have such, and maybe I'm wrong. I have such high esteem for Crawford's IQ that I think it levels out the weights.
Mm-hmm. It could. It absolutely could. I'm thinking about Callum Smith when Crawford targeted his shoulder and basically busted his bicep. Canelo targeted his shoulder and basically busted his arm. Like, that's another thing about Canelo. When you're as big and when you're strong as you are, and you're fighting, guy as small than you, he just has to hit you. He hits your elbow, he hits your shoulder. Is Crawford going to be able to really keep himself from getting touched all night long? But listen, Crawford's a really strong guy. We've seen how strong he is physically. We saw him, throw Spence around. We've seen him be that way. We didn't see it in the Madrimov fight, but again, like all your points, Madrimov is an excellent fighter, very underrated. But it's a very intriguing fight, and it's one of those ones where it's like, I'm not gonna really know until we're there, because we're gonna see so much build up. We're gonna get to see these guys. We're seeing them a little bit with each other now, but the fight's still pretty far away. I think as we get closer and we really start getting down to the nitty gritty, it's gonna. I think that's really when the guys who are really looking are gonna be able to know who's probably gonna win.
Yeah, if they do workouts the week before, it'll be a good indication of how they look. Because I remember when I saw Crawford the week before the Spence fight, they did like back-to-back workouts. We saw, Spence do workout, and then we saw Crawford do workout. And I had already been favoring Crawford just because of the styles and really because of the Ugas fight. I felt like if Ugas did that to Spence, it's going to be a lot worse because Crawford's a lot better and he places the punches better. But when I saw Crawford work out, I just noticed how much quicker he was than Spence. And his reflexes looked just a lot more sharper than Spence, and I thought like, oh, this is not good for Spence, But based off that too, like because he's coming up in weight, I've noticed Crawford has put on some size. He does look a little bit thicker, and I do wonder like what's the right balance there to not lose his speed advantages, or he gains so much weight that he becomes a little slower, a little. What's the right word?
Lumbering.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Listen, you're going to give up speed. You're putting on tissue that your body's just not used to. I mean, Crawford has a good frame. He's got long arms. He's got wide shoulders. But where everyone has a ceiling. Where's his actual ceiling? And I know. Listen, he gets heavy in between fights. He shows himself on the scale. That's different than lean tissue. If you and I'm sure you've been around Canelo. The guy is just dense, thick. From his neck to his ankles. Everything is thick. He's got thick wrists, thick hands, thick kneecaps, thick ankles. He's got a thick midsection. He's heavily muscled. He's not a big guy, shorter than me, not really wide shouldered, very, very different build, but heavily muscled, especially around the trunk area. So it's a clash of styles. It's a clash of body types. The question is, we've never seen Crawford at 68. And yes, the boxing IQ is there. Obviously, he's had speed, but how fast is he going to be at 68? He's obviously not going to be cutting any weight. So there's that. He'll be fresh. I don't know. Moving around that ring, carrying the extra weight, how is that going to feel? Because that can tire you out too. The gas tank can be different. A lot of things. But I'll say this about the Crawford and the Spence fight week, because I was there as well. Crawford was cutting weight. Crawford looked big at 47. I think that was his last fight at 47 for a good reason. He was not like just the smaller guy. Like they were pretty much the same size at that point, even though everyone always thought that Spence was a much bigger guy, and he always was. Crawford grew into a real welterweight, but he doesn't have time to grow into a real super middle, and I don't think he should, because I think he should maintain some of that speed rather than size. But I don't know. We'll see. Crawford is something special, dude. I swear, he's like an alien. The way he's able to maneuver and make his body work for himself the way he has.
My last one for you, Chris. It's a two-parter. If Crawford does this and pulls this off, what does it do for his legacy? Where do you rank him all time? And on the flip, if Canelo beats Crawford, what does that do for his legacy and how he's perceived as a fighter going forward in the future?
Kind of similar to what Canelo said last year. It's a lose-lose for him. I mean, with a win, it's like everyone's just going to say, yeah, duh, you're supposed to beat him. But actually context matters. How he wins is going to matter. If he struggles to get by and wins the decision, I think it's going to hurt Canelo. If he goes out there and he knocks him out, it's going to be like, yeah, all right, cool. You knocked that guy 3 weight classes below you. You're supposed to. Crawford wins. I mean, forget it. We're talking. Now we're entering the all-time great status. We're talking about pound for pound, just based on everything he's done so far, which has been a ridiculous amount of things. Undisputed in multiple weight classes. All the weight classes that he's won titles. Just jumping over middleweight to grab the undisputed at 68. It's nuts. Even saying it out loud sounds crazy to me, but the guy might do it. That's the crazy thing about it. And if he loses, I don't really think it affects his legacy all that much. All the accomplishments that he already has, Crawford, those are not going to be forgotten. He's jumping up 2 weight classes, so I take it as a win-win, loss-loss situation for these guys. Win-win for Crawford and lose for Canelo.
Yeah, there's. Just now that I think about it, I think there's a lot on the line for Canelo in this. In
Yes.
terms of something that Crawford brought up during the press conference, and he told him, hey, look, every time you stepped up against an elite guy, you lost. You lost against Floyd. You lost against Bivol. The disputed win over GGG, that first fight.
Lara.
And Lara, yeah, it's like every time you fought an elite guy, it's, you either lost or something murky. And I think for Canelo to, I don't know, I feel like to him to finally prove like, hey, look, this is what I did to an elite guy. Like, look, I could handle this style. Yeah, I wasn't able to do it against Floyd. Floyd and Crawford are different fighters. I was too young back then, but look what I did regardless of the weight situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point made by Crawford, and that's a good way to get under Canelo's skin. And yeah, there is a lot on the line for Canelo, because if he loses this, the tarnish on his legacy is massive. Like, dude, you lost to a welterweight. You lost to a lightweight. He was a lightweight world champion. You lost to a lightweight. You guy jumped up 2 weight classes. The guy was 38 years old. There's going to be a lot of that. A lot of the criticisms that Canelo's been getting lately by not fighting certain guys, that's gonna come back to haunt him that much more.
My only thing, I guess, to that was if he does lose, I see it as a very competitive fight. He lost against a guy who's will be considered an all-time great, a very, very special fighter. And Canelo's already accomplished so much. I don't think it's going to tarnish. Everyone has short-term memory, Chris. The short-term memory, bro. They're going to forget about that. They're going to remember the stadiums he filled up, the people he knocked out, that undisputed run, that tear that he went through. Like that's to me his shining accomplishment, where he took out the division, and he fought the best in that division, and he took them out one by one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a huge. You're talking to a big Canelo fan. I like Canelo. I like what he's done, but he gets a lot of heat out there, man. I gets a lot of heat out there, and I think a loss here, it's going to be a lot more. So there is going to be that, because I mean, I don't get it. There's people who talk about his legacy now as not being that great. I'm like, come on, guy, you're just being. I feel like you're being a hater at this point. But if a loss here is just going to fuel and fan those flames. I'm still going to understand, like you said, when he was ripping through, I hate to say it, but Yildirim was in there, Callum Smith, BJ Saunders, Caleb Plant. Like, that was awesome. That was prime peak Canelo. He was a machine, and I was at most of those fights. I was at Yildirim, and I was at BJ Saunders. And, it was insane what he was able to do at that point, the people he had behind him, and just going out there and just performing the way he was, devastating, very good top flight fighters.
Yeah, no, both are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Both are all time.
First ballot.
Great. Yeah, fighters. This is why they fight the fights, man. May the best man win between the two. Chris, hey man, it's great catching up with you. Thank you for sharing some time with us over here on Fight Up TV. If you have anything you want to plug, go ahead, plug it in, man. Now's your chance.
Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. But yeah, just make sure to tune in ppv.com on Fight Night. Get in that chat. We enjoy, the more the merrier. Tell your friends. Make sure you keep tuning in. My podcast, Inside Boxing Live with Dan Canobio. We do 2 shows a week. We travel. ppv.com is our headline sponsor. And that's what we're doing.
All right, that is Chris Algieri. This is Marcos Viegas. Thank you guys for watching us over here on Fight Up TV. Thank you guys.